Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of WWT Experts. I'm your guest host today, Brian Felt, filling in for Matthew Coble, our regular host. I'm excited today to be talking to WWT expert Kent Noyes as we talk about the substantial growth taking place in the cloud landscape and the security implications it's having for our clients worldwide. Kent brings more than 20 years of expertise to the table, and I'm super excited to be talking to him. He helps our clients think strategically about their security posture as they continue to move more and more workloads toward the cloud. Without further ado, we'd love to introduce you to Kent Noyes. Kent?
Hey, Brian.
Hey, glad to have you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, Kent, it's no secret that over the last several years, companies have been accelerating their cloud transformation, moving more and more workloads to the cloud, and that's bringing with it a lot of security implications. Walk me through what is driving security in the cloud marketplace today and what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's just a massive growth, and it's going to be that way for a few years. You could talk to just about any analyst over. The public cloud is not slowing down. Just take Gartner, for example, look at their data. They're predicting that by 2025, over 50% of enterprise IT spend is going to shift to the public cloud. That's a big number, over half of it. And 95% of new digital initiatives are going to be rolled out on cloud native platforms. So we're talking about container systems there, container environments. They're a little better fit for cloud. They're lighter weight, they're cheaper. They're also more conducive to cloud native, more modern forms of development, CI/CD development. And then SaaS is growing equally quickly, and it's going to do that for a number of years. This year, I think they're predicting the spend on SaaS is going to be $195 billion, and that's 70% over last year. So it's growing like gangbusters right now. And SaaS, of course, being ServiceNow, Salesforce, applications like that in that space. So what does all that mean? I mean, it means that there's a lot of apps and a whole lot of data over the next few years moving into the public cloud. And obviously, when you do that, you're going to have to secure it. And it's secured in a different way in many cases, right? So you've got to secure it for many of the same reasons that you had when it was on-prem, right? It's risk, it's compliance, it's regulatory. All those things contribute to that. So it's booming.
Well, you mentioned just the influx of new tools, new capabilities that are happening within the security space, and that's providing a lot of value as it relates to cloud adoption and migrating to the cloud. But it's also adding a tremendous amount of complexity to the matter too. So, what types of challenges is that creating for our customers, and how should they be thinking about tackling that complexity?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of them. I'll name a couple. One of them is multi-cloud. They're just about every customer is moving into multiple clouds. They're not just moving into Azure. They're not just moving into AWS. They're moving into multiple clouds. And when you do that, there's a lot of complexity there. It's hard to operationalize it. Customers are looking for a single pane of glass, especially in security. Security is already complicated. When you move into the public cloud, you've got additional complexity. If you have different security controls in AWS and different security solutions in Azure and Google, it just makes it 10 times more complicated. So they're looking for a single pane of glass type model, not in every case, but in a lot of cases. It's noble to try to use the native built-in controls in the cloud, but it's difficult to do that in every case just to keep it give you the ability to operationalize it properly. Consolidation, similar concept. We're seeing a lot of consolidation. It's just like on-prem security. There's a million solutions, constant need to consolidate down the number of solutions that you're using. And I think security being able to keep up with the speed of developers, maintain the same pace as they are, and to be able to go at the same speed, not wait to secure it until it's in production, try to shift left into that so you're earlier in the process and providing security over those controls before they get into production. That's a common need out there, and sort of integrating development and security into one unit.
Well, you mentioned that single pane of glass, and I was reading an article of yours on WWT.com calling for that type of consolidation as well. Any one or two solutions that stand out that would help lead to that consolidation?
Yeah, I think biggest bang for the buck once you're rolling out into the cloud. I think there's a solution out there called the Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. It's a mouthful, but that stands for CNAPP. We will call it CNAPP through the duration of this. Let's keep it simple. This is a big consolidation play. When you think of CNAPPs, think of consolidation, right? You are reducing down the number of security solutions that you have into a solution called a CNAPP, and it's going to have a lot in it. I'll name a few here. One is a Cloud Security Posture Manager, CSPM. Really powerful piece of software there, SaaS software in most cases. And it's going to assess your risk. It's going to assess your compliance. It's going to evaluate your biggest issues and prioritize those and help you remediate them from a compliance perspective. It's going to evaluate you based on common frameworks out there. That's how it works in the security world, whether that's PCI or NIST or ISO or whatever. It's going to evaluate the compliance and your own internal policy as well. So CSPMs are part of CNAPP. Cloud workload protection, another big element in CNAPP. It's kind of like endpoint security for the public cloud, essentially, and they're evaluating vulnerabilities and malware. They're evaluating serverless components, patch management, on down the line. And they specialize often in container environments, so they're also cloud-friendly in how they do that. CNAPPs also have an identity element in infrastructure entitlement. That's really big. It's like identity for the cloud, for cloud infrastructure specifically. What do users have rights to in the actual cloud itself, in the resourcing in the cloud, not specifically in applications, but in the infrastructure in the cloud, right? And in the public cloud, it's a little different. The infrastructure itself is given privileges, right? So those can be excessive. If you have a virtual machine with admin rights and a user occupies that has minimal rights, it will have the ability to utilize those admin rights from that. So that's good for attacker. That's really bad for us. Infrastructure as code scanning, that's another part of a CNAPP. So again, we're covering a lot of territory. Infrastructure as code scanning will utilize the same policy and compliance as you get in the CSPM, but it's going to apply to the actual software development process. It's going to be able to review that prior to that software ever making it into production. So you'll see that in CNAPP, as well as container build scanning before it makes it to production as well. That's the whole shift left concept. And it's a focus on infrastructure for CNAPPs. And then finally, API security. We like to see that as sort of the fifth function in a CNAPP. API security, most customers don't even know what APIs they have, much less how to secure those APIs. So you can see, and they're adding in more functionality into them. So they're a big consolidation play. You can see a lot of functionality. It covers a lot of territory in the cloud space. And it's beginning to be kind of a necessity, especially in multi-cloud.
So we talk about the value that CNAPP brings and just what we need another acronym to the mix, but you talked about everything that goes into CNAPP. What is the value that it brings? How is it making life easier on security leaders that are focused on cloud?
Visibility. I mean, it's going to give you a fundamentally with that part of it, it's going to give you visibility of the resources in your cloud. It's going to do an inventory right off the bat through APIs. And then it's going to prioritize your issues. It's really good at prioritizing the issues that it finds, misconfigurations, vulnerabilities, et cetera. So you know where to remediate first, essentially, and it'll give you the remediation guidance as well. Sometimes automating that remediation guidance. So it really just makes your, as I stated earlier, a complicated security world. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier overall, and just kind of simplifying that. And knowing where to, it also kind of correlates issues together. If you have a virtual machine that has a vulnerability on it, but it's exposed to the internet, and it's also got high privileges, that's 3 different elements combined. It might see that and really escalate that up to the top to help you prioritize where to start when you get in. When you engage these things in the beginning, especially a sort of a brownfield environment, it's going to light up like a Christmas tree. You're going to see all kinds of issues out there, but it will help you address those issues in an order and give you guidance to do it. So pretty powerful.
Well, in the end, it's a platform. So how should organizations around the globe be thinking about the different components that go into that platform? Is it ever a prepackaged solution, or would a customer go and pick and choose the different components that go into it? How should they be thinking or evaluating that landscape?
I think typically they're going to, they might need 1 or 2 functions in it more than the others. They might not utilize the infrastructure as code scanning, but typically they're gonna roll into all of it initially, and other things that are kind of being rolled into it now, data security, posture management, et cetera. So yeah, I think from what I've seen so far, they kind of go for the whole thing. It's very well integrated typically on how they operate. There are a few, like workload protection, some of the solutions, they'll just buy the workload protection. That does happen if they really specialize in that. So it happens from time to time. By and large, for the most part, the ones that are consolidated nicely, it's usually kind of the whole package.
Well, let's switch gears just a little bit. And you mentioned at the top securing SaaS. Why is that more important? I know, plenty of workloads and back office applications moving to SaaS models if they haven't already. How can organizations ensure that they are secured in that manner?
Yeah, SaaS is a different ballgame. That's not really enveloped into the CNAP umbrella. There's a solution called SaaS Security Posture Managers out there. It's a pretty good first step. Posture management is kind of like zero trust. It's sort of the phrase of the day. Very common, a lot of different kinds of them right now. But SSPMs, when you look at SaaS, there's a thing called the shared responsibility model in security for cloud. And when you're on-prem, you have, as the customer, all of the security responsibility. You move to infrastructure as a service and you're in a CSP, then you have a little bit less and the CSP will take some of that security. You have a little less in platform as a service and then ultimately the least in SaaS, but there's still a lot to secure there because you have so many SaaS apps. It comes down to kind of identity and data for the most part is what you're securing in those environments. You're also securing third-party integration. So there's a lot of players in that space. Some are pure play SSPMs, that's what they focus on. Some are enveloped into the more common vendors that we're used to seeing out there. Of course, the Palos and the Netscopes and those other vendors kind of pull that into their portfolio that they have it. So those are getting more common, kind of standard issue, especially if you're using a lot of SaaS overall.
Well, moving forward, as cloud adoption continues to accelerate, what are you expecting within the next 6 to 12 months as it relates to cloud security? What are you hearing from customers, and what are you seeing in the market?
I think we're starting to see additional functionality pop up that's needing attention. Data discovery, data protection is always important, but fundamentally, customers still don't know where their data is, oddly enough. So data discovery is a big deal. Data classification, data security posture management. I mentioned that just briefly a few minutes ago. We're seeing a lot more of that, where you're actually sort of constantly evaluating in the cloud, where you have dormant data, who has rights to data, all sorts of aspects around the data itself. And some of these are getting enveloped into the big players like Big ID or Spirion. They'll incorporate those DSPM capabilities. Some, again, are kind of evolving into the CNAPs themselves. So they're actually adding that in the CNAPs as well. Another thing is cloud detection and response. We're starting to see some advances there. Some pretty impressive. We had a demo a few weeks ago. I've been watching, AI and modeling and machine learning for a long time, but cloud detection and response is, we're starting to see more advanced options for that, where it's a little bit, I think it works a little faster, gives you a little more value, a little bit more quickly, and how it operates and how it can detect malicious activity. And I think auto remediation is one I would call out for the near future. I think that's got a lot of potential. Again, as I stated earlier, when you engage a CNAP, you're gonna have a lot of issues. It's gonna light it up big time. And the ability to remediate it then, but then ongoing is a big deal. Most of those solutions will provide some auto remediation, but mostly it's sort of like written, sort of almost verbal guidance. They will tell you what to do essentially. And they have some auto remediation. But there's lots of space there for you to create your own automations in them. They let you do that, or to increase the number of automations built into them. So I see, that's to create sort of a self-healing cloud, if you will. So I see going down at least those 3 paths and many others in the cloud security space. But in the time we have, that's what I'd focus on.
Well, Kent, thank you so much for joining me today. This was super enlightening. I know it's an important topic that's touching a lot of our clients worldwide. So thanks again for joining today. And thanks to you, our viewers, for tuning in to another great session of WWT Experts. Mr. Matthew Coble will be back for the next episode, and you can always find our on-demand episodes on WWT.com. Just search WWT.com/experts.